Hey everyone, it's finally here, the Newsday where we get to be angry again about Xenogears this time. Hey Sinzar.
How's it going?
So shit, yeah, you'd think this is the highlight of my week, right? Xenogears is finally coming.
I mean, why are they not upgrading id like that? Well, why aren't they upgrading all the units? Because they're skipping all the 7 stars too.
Yeah, and I think that also the power they had in JP is not at all as easily transferable to GL. Like or the way or the reason why Graph was powerful in JP. But let's get it let's let's first talk about the big complaint, right? Like so this banner, the Xenogears banner is out, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars on banner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I think
none
it's
of
5.
them are upgraded. I'm
Or,
not counting Faye also. It's 6
oh, okay.
non-MVAs. Faye is the
Okay.
7th one, right?
Yes.
So Banner shares rainbows between these. Problem is 6 out of 7 are absolutely worthless. I mean, and you have to understand how much it hurts my soul to call Xenogears units absolutely worthless, because this is the game I love the most in the world, but no one is getting upgrades. So Sinzar, can you tell us like what happened in JP that made some of these good, or at least Bart? I know you're happy about Bart.
Yeah, like just to be clear, like it is insulting if you're a fan of the series to not get the units upgraded, like Maria, Ellie, etc. But they weren't good. They really were not good. They were not useful at all. They were upgraded, and people could do goofy stuff like you could give Ellie a vision card and go and clear the Ashura trial in 5 turns. Like you can definitely use the unit, but they weren't good. They weren't meta.
Right.
On the other hand, Bart was absolutely a top tier support that I used in multiple content. I used him on various trials. I used him on Dark Visions and Vision World that are coming down the road. That like the next Dark Visions that came, I used Bart in JP because he was a great unit. Bart was a wonderful top tier 7-star support unit on the tier of like Sylvie or even better, because he does things that are more important than what Sylvie does today. All Sylvie really does today is like imbues. That's all that she really has. Well, Bart has imbues and amplifies for 4 elements, 130% in perils. He does breaks. He does AoE double stack mirage. He does accuracy damage. He does AoE killer buffs. Like Bart
Wow.
was loaded. He was a wonderful unit. That was a 7-star. He was like one of the prizes of the banner, and they're skipping him.
Wow. And I agree with your first statement. Like, okay, it's cool, or it's actually very saddening to hear just how interesting and useful Bart could have been to the player base if he had been upgraded. But I also want to double down on what you said first. I also think like you're releasing this collab, you're putting these specific 7 stars on the banner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not upgrading them. I think that's just a huge insult. I mean, I love this game. I love Xenogears even more, unfortunately, but I do. And I just think this is such a shame. I think this is such a shame.
Mm-hmm.
I have no words, because like you also know that they had to put in effort to remove this, right? Like this is already in the data from JP. Like the only tiny thing they could have saved here is not doing translations for like ability names. But dude, I've worked with I've worked with professional translation agencies. It costs fucking nothing. Costs even less if you don't have a professional agency, which, let's face it, Gumi doesn't, because many times we've gotten translation problems in game is scary. Okay, so that sucks. That fucking sucks. That makes me even angry. Like I've been not happy with the state of the game lately, and this does not improve it.
Mm-hmm. It's just more of the same. Like you think by now we'd be numb to it because Global just does this, but it hurts every single time they do it. It hurts all over again.
Yeah.
And I would never get over it that they're just skipping content.
But listen. So last time you and me pulled a miracle out of our collective asses, or I want to say mostly you, because nobody knows who I am. But when we were talking about the Final Fantasy Final Fantasy 5 banner, and we were talking about Lena, she actually did get upgrades. So let's actually talk a bit about it. All right, let's because everyone knows Graph is the big powerhouse of this. So let's talk about id first. So id looks fucking amazing to begin with, and
Mm-hmm.
his brave shift looks even amazinger, more amazing. What is he? He is just a damage dealer, right?
Yeah, the base form for all 3 of these units are pretty forgettable. It's like the human form. They don't do anything. Just
Right.
forget they exist.
Right.
But the shift form, yeah, id is an LB finisher. in his shift form. He's fire locked, and if he is EX2 or better, he does a 280x LB, which is outdated and it's locked to fire.
I mean, that's less than our old SLB units like Kurasame and Cyan and so on.
Yes.
Shit, that's actually Hawkeye level. I just realized Hawkeye has 280, right?
He does, yes, and it does. Now, to be fair, because it is a Xenogear and all the Xenogears share this trait, he's got the passive to where he's got like exceptionally high attack power, and it does make up for it. Like he's going to easily outdamage Hawkeye. Hawkeye was done even worse. But yeah, so id does a lot of damage compared to some of the older units. He is definitely behind our current meta. He does less than all the premium units. He does way less than Graph, which is the big reason that it's such a frustration, is because it's not so much that id just isn't strong. Like, okay, maybe you could say they just didn't want a power creep banner, so all the banner is mediocre. That's not the case. Graph is great.
Right.
Id is something like 60% of Graph's damage. It's just like he's a tremendous downstep from Graph. Not only that, he is locked to an element. Graph is not. So like another thing is just like so confusing that it is made so much worse. And then this is not the biggest deal, but just to throw more fuel on the fire. Id's STMR is garbage. Graph's STMR is amazing. Like, why id hate?
So it's obvious that this is the Troll Rainbow, right? Or Troll NV, sorry. And but like I got corrected about this in the podcast the other day. So when they put multiple NVs on banner, it's still the same rate to get one of the NVs on the banner, right? Like they're not diluting the actual chances for you to get one of these. And also, we're actually getting different step ups for these units, right? So like the only reason you would ever go for id would be if you're specifically going for id, right?
Yes, but he is going to still be in the pool of the Graph step up. He won't have increased rates, but he'll be in the pool. So this is kind of like pulling on Chow and accidentally getting Shui Yi.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's 100% what I was crying about many times. Like it makes you feel bad, and the worst part of it is that like, yeah, this was an NV roll that could have went towards a premium NV, for instance. In fact, they're like, so as you're saying, he's gonna out damage Hawkeye, but since his mod is low, he does have exceptional attack. He's still fire locked, so there will still be reasons to bring fucking Cyan or Kurasame over id, even though like this is a unit that's many months newer than Kurasame or Cyan.
It's important to people to know that like he is not worthless, and he is in like the upper 30% of total damage dealers on global. It's just he is absolutely behind our meta, which is premiums, Lara Croft, Graph, etc.
Yeah, and even Graph, I thought was very interesting to look at it, because Graph may be powerful now, but he's still like not the top damage dealer still, and he's gonna get quite a lot worse when we get into the variance upgrade that we should be getting soon. But before we get into the Graph details, because I do have a lot to say about that, let's actually just say what a Xenogear unit means. So a Xenogear unit is actually, as you said before, since are human in base form, they shift into their gear, which is their huge mech, and they can't equip weapons. So this means a couple of things, right?
Yes. It means they have no variance whatsoever. And they have no source of weapon in peril. Like unarmed is not the same thing as fist weapons. A lot of people get that confused. They think, oh, it's just you can use a fist in peril; it'll work on them. It does not. Unarmed and fist weapons are two distinct weapon groups. There is no unarmed in peril. So yeah, no variance, no weapon in peril. That being said, because the attack power is so high, it compensates for that. So it's not like they're doing bad. They're still doing good damage. This is all balanced in their kit. But yeah, like never, ever, ever do something like give them equip greatsword and force them to use a weapon, because that'll turn off their passives and they'll be trash. Yeah, don't ever equip a weapon.
Don't do that. So they're kind of gonna end up with like 10k attack or something ridiculous, right? Like wailed out. They're gonna be sitting at 10k attack.
And a generic EX1 will be about 9,500. EX2 will be somewhere around like 10,000, depending on your gear. Right. And then EX3, like top of the line. You have all the flat attacks. You've got both their TMRs. You're looking at somewhere like 11,500.
Wow. That, I mean, that's just a nice number to see, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but again, it has the drawback. So one way I think of like, I mean, it could just be simply fixed by giving him a higher modifier. That could be enough to just
Like
put it.
that's just give him the same modifier as the other, like 350. Like there you go. Now all of a sudden he's doing the damage, good damage,
I
the
mean,
same
he
damage as
wouldn't even
Graf.
need 350. Like he could get a bit lower and still be better than the place he's at now. Because I was looking at your sheet yesterday, and Faye actually clocks in higher than Id. So Gumi, don't take this
Yes.
as a reason to nerf Faye. Fuck you. I need you to buff Id, okay? Like Faye is in a good place. Leave Faye alone.
Yeah,
Um,
the thing with like Faye versus id, Faye has a 300x modifier, and Faye also gets an extra 1,000 flat attack. But Faye does have lower base stats because it's an NVA. But
right.
yeah, and when you do it, add it all together, Faye does like about 5% higher damage than id, which is just goofy.
Yeah, it's a bit silly. I mean, Faye is in a good place. Make it a bit stronger. I have a thought here, like what they could do. So, what do you think about? I don't know if this is mechanically possible. Maybe it isn't. But could they add a unarmed imperil, weapon imperil, to id, making him kind of like a must pull if you're also pulling for Graph?
I mean, could they mechanically like coding? Absolutely. I mean, it's the designers of the game can do whatever they want. So they
Yeah,
could could they
well, I mean, that would
could
require
they code
extra
it? Sure.
features. But I'm thinking more like, does unarmed count as a if unarmed counts as a weapon, then I'm sure
Um,
they can just add that like as a skill modifier somewhere, and that takes like 5 minutes of someone's work. But
that would be a better question for like someone like Sysis that knows like the inner workings of the technical side. I don't
right, right.
know if unarmed even exists in the current game. To
But if
add
it
it,
does, that would be a
I
pretty
think
cool
they would have to
fix.
like, yeah, I think they would have to like code that in customly, which is probably more work than they're willing to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but also they could just bump his LB to 300 or
Yeah, no,
320 or even 350, just like, because
yes,
they are also very different. So let's actually jump to Graph, I guess, because again, the unit archetype is the same. It's base form damage dealer shifting into a huge mech on shift form,
hmm
but where it is a LB finisher, right?
yes. Graph is a cooldown finisher. He has a cooldown that is only usable starting on turn 3, so you cannot burst his good burst on the first 2 turns. Roka,
Unless, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Roka can speed that up. So this is like the prime use of Roka's time magic is to let Graph burst earlier or more often because it is a 3 turn cooldown. And after you use it, assuming the boss is not dead, this is more for like trial content.
Mm.
And Graph is good in trials, the upcoming trials. He's actually good in a few of them. But yeah, if you want to burst more often, Roka is amazing for that. Graph can burst back to back to back with a properly set up Roka. So yeah, and that's his cooldown. Um, it does 3 hits, which is actually relevant for some of the upcoming Dark Visions bosses because the damage cap, he can break the 10 billion damage cap. There are a few upcoming
Oh,
Dark Visions bosses yet that are really squishy, and units like Sephiroth, Tyves, etc., are hard locked at 10 billion, and Graph can
oh,
break that because his is 3 hits. So that's
OP.
relevant. It's relevant sometimes for the hardest, like the final bosses. That's not relevant because on those final bosses, like you're not dealing that much damage anyway because they're so bulky. But it can matter for the earlier
Yeah.
bosses.
So why are people calling him like a Regina style finisher? Does he have the whole pentacast where he powers
Yes,
up one ability thing?
exactly. Yeah, it's a times 5 cast. You do 5 or 4 mod boost, and then the cooldown finisher at the end.
Ah, all right,
Um,
okay.
Also, and this is more of an inconvenience than like an actual handicap, but he does drain his mana pool like you wouldn't believe. Like he bursts twice and he is out. You got to refill that mana some kind of way.
Okay, good thing we have Bulwark.
Yeah,
Um,
like Bulwark's a great option.
so another thing we should mention, I think you already said this, but he is not element locked. He's elemental less. Which is
Correct.
pretty cool. You can imbue him with any element you need and still get really big damage. Now, looking at sheets, like, and I'm again referring to the sheet you shared yesterday, Sinzar, Graf is not the top damage dealer. Like, if you need a fire finisher, Tyvus is your person. If you need something else, you're going to be going to the premiums anyway because they have the variance to support it. But one of the big,
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
well, just a correction. That sheet that I did, the initial build, was just by memory. Someone corrected me from JP, and they pointed out that an EX3, like I mentioned before, like when you have all the stuff, including both TMRs from both units, because they do stack for flat attack.
Oh,
He does get higher attack power. So I corrected my sheet, and assuming you've got literally everything for an EX3 Graf, he is the current #1 DPS on global for Dark Vision's finishing, not Clash
okay.
of Wills.
Okay. All right. All right. And another thing I do want to add here is that a part of his power, especially coming from like that you hear from JP players, is again that he is not element locked. And the reason for that is, as I understand it, Zensar, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that a vast majority of JP content is element locked. Like we have final bosses in DV that you can use any element on. JP doesn't.
Yes, in JP, pretty much the final boss is always locked to either one or just a couple elements. Global has been changing that, so for multiple, pretty much all the Dark Visions for like ever just about. I don't think we've ever had an element locked final boss. So yeah, Global has been changing that, so his element flexibility is not the biggest deal on Global, just because like Tyvis coming to the water final boss on JP is that a massive handicap. But on global, it doesn't really matter because all the elements are equal. So
Yeah, exactly. All you have to worry about is just making sure everyone has the imperils they need, and that's
yeah,
basically it for global. So that's a bit of his power being kind of like diluted or not diluted. But the other big thing for GL for me is, of course, that we have Cal as an additional type of content. Where what I want to say is in JP, Graf was a skeleton key. Like you could use him for fucking everything, and he would fuck shit up. But in
hmm
GL, we have Cal. Like you're not bringing Graf to Cal. Like he's strong, but there are stronger units. You have morale units, and you're gonna bring those.
yeah. To
Um,
just touch on that briefly, because I've seen
yeah,
some discussions on Reddit about Graph could be good in Cow, because again, at your perfect EX3 Graph with all the toys, he does approximately the same damage as Carton in Clash of Wills, which is really good. But there's more to the story in Clash of Wills than just your damage number, because Graph, again, his burst is a cooldown. His shift form is a trance shift. You cannot shift freely. And like that just doesn't work in Clash of Wills, because Clash of Wills for the past like 5 months has been like a double burst mechanic. You can't just burst once and you're done. So Graph's going to burst once, he's done. Then the threshold gets pushed. Then you need to finish the boss off, and Graph is like, what do I do now? Yeah,
right, right,
Carton, Laura, Sky, they can just burst back to back to back to back, not a problem.
right.
Graph cannot do that. So even if his damage can be almost to the point of being good enough in Clash of Wills, just mechanically, he's going to be awkward. I'm sure people can still make him work, especially if Roka's on the team. Roka can enable that back to back bursting, but just
But I mean,
general
then you're
purpose
bringing Roka as well to Cow. Like we already know how stressful Cow is in terms of slot efficiency, right? Like, or at least judging from the few cows or the last few cows, right? So like putting
Mhm.
Roka in there, and not just that, but also the unit you mentioned, Carton, and I think all other morale units really have something really strong going for them, and that's that their kits are designed by Gumi, and that's a really good
Mhm.
thing because that means they have a ton of other stuff they contribute with in that cow, right? Like Carton might be helping your party to absorb dark. He might be imbuing. He might be doing things that are really good for your party overall. Whereas, well, I mean, Graf is a damage dealer, and already there you're kind of skimping out, right?
Yeah, and Graph has effectively zero utility at all.
And
Yeah,
then you're
and
also
again,
bringing another unit that also has very little utility to the cow overall, right? And then it really
mhm.
becomes not worth it.
Yeah, like that is just for like hardcore fans of Graph that want to force him to work, but it's really not recommended. And also, we're comparing his damage to Carton, who does good damage, but as people have seen, Carton hasn't even been there on the top teams for the last two Clash of Wills. His damage, unfortunately, has already been power crept in
Yeah.
Clash of Wills.
Yeah. So, I mean, like good. I mean, Graph, like again, Graph is good, especially if you're looking for a DV unit for trials. Like you said, he was going to be good for them, but I also heard that the upcoming trials are jokes, so it's not really like you're going to have him for anything, right?
Yeah, like the next trial is the Dullahan trial, and Graph can absolutely stomp on this trial, but then again, so can the five other units.
Okay, yeah, exactly. That's kind of my point. It's not the unique power level that we're seeing. However, still a very strong unit. I mean, I'm very happy that the Xenogears banner does come with a strong unit. As I said before, I absolutely adore Xenogears as a game. So I'm gonna try to pull for it. I've been saving some of my guaranteed 5-star tickets as well, or sorry, 7-star tickets, hoping to get some more phase. I'm very disappointed by that Faye is sharing the pool with 6 other units that do absolutely nothing to the meta.
And just to stir you up, Barrows, did you even notice that they increased the price and they took away the shards on the step up?
Wait, I did not see. Well, no, it's
Oh my
four.
god.
What do you mean? It's 4.5k. That isn't that
Oh,
what we've
oh,
had?
oh no! The pity has been increased. The pity now costs 40,500, and they removed all the
Oh,
shards from the banner. They removed all the shards from the shop. These are basically premium priced. So good luck on it.
wow, these are actually premium priced? Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, you need 12 for a featured NV unit, right. And the free step is the last step instead of the third step that we've seen a couple of times now. Um, okay, wow. So I guess like forgetting, I mean, people are, I really don't see anyone pulling for an EX3 then, right? Like I see no reason to go that
I
far.
mean, a bunch of people are going to pull for EX3, but it is going to be pricey.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you're saying a bunch of people, but do whales even have like? I guess like as a big whale, obviously you would want graph, right? You want graph
Well,
for that huge damage, but
there's definitely different tiers of whales. There's some whales that the unit could literally have one attack power and they would pull it to EX3 because they don't even care.
right,
There are
right.
definitely the whales that just go all in no matter what. And then there are like small whales that go for all the good stuff. They skip the trolls. And then there's like, there's different versions or
Sure,
different like
sure.
tiers of
But that's
spending.
kind of my challenge. I mean, of course, the ones that get everything, they're not in the equation because they'll get it regardless, right? But I'm thinking about people that care about scoring high in DV and that are also whaling, right? So on this banner, you first of all you need an id to get the TMR, right? Because that's one of the tools for Graph's big dick damage, right?
Yes, for his best in slot, it is going to involve one id TMR. Now on the JP server, their trust moguls were sold in the Vision World shop, so you could
Oh,
blank mogul them if you happen to have a blank mogul from 6 years ago and they still gave them out.
oh, I have shit. I have not wasted mine. Oh, I have many. Okay, that's
Now,
good. That's good.
I wouldn't recommend that because these TMRs are literally locked to these units only, so they're going to get no utility for like long-term value or whatever.
Yeah, but I think you
Um,
underestimate my love for Xenogears, okay? Listen, and you overestimate how much lapis I have, because I have 4,500 lapis. That's a temple, all right? That's and I'm still not sure actually if I'm going to be pulling on the id step up or the graph step up. I mean, obviously graph is the more powerful unit, but to me, I enjoy it a bit more. I would love to put it and Faye in the same team for that paradoxical feeling. That would be pretty
that's
cool.
that's why I'm so frustrated because it is way cooler as a unit from the game. I
Yes.
loved it, and I thought his scenes in the game were epic. And then
Yeah,
he's
and
not
just
as
look at
good
his
as Graph.
fucking gear. Okay, Weltall ID is like, or Weltall ID is like the coolest looking fucking mech in the game. They're also making this really cool collectible action figure of Weltall ID that looks amazing and costs accordingly. So it's like I would really want id to be the powerful unit. I understand he isn't. It would just be like, okay, Gumi, listen, please, just make it a bit more powerful. You're gonna make my choice of pulling on the id step up easier. Cause
Hmm.
I mean, again, I love the power of Graph, and I think Graph is cool too. Graph like shows up in the game from the very beginning and is a prominent one of the prominent antagonists or protagonists, depending on how you look at it. And but id to me is just so much cooler, like honestly. All right, all right. Let's move on. I guess we're burning time here, and I need to move on myself as well. But what else do we have? So we have the World of Visions, right?
Well, you got Vision Worlds, and you have like the EX stage, which is like the trial, quote unquote trial. I mean, for veterans, you can go in there and you can turn one OTK done.
Oh, really? So like any unit, or because we're getting one of those crystals that we still can't use, and we're actually fighting
Yeah,
Weltall ID.
yeah. I mean, it really depends on your. I say that a lot of times, then I'll get comments like, "I've been playing for a month. I got decimated by this thing. You said it was a joke." So it really depends on your player level. For veterans, you're not going to have a problem with this. You're going to go in there and face roll it.
Okay.
For like newer players, I'll try to make like a budget guide for
Like,
clearing
what if you
these.
have a Fey? What if you have like an EX1 Fey?
I mean, yeah, he should be plenty. It's you're going to have like the proper setup so you don't die on turn one or something.
Okay, okay.
So
So it's
like a
it's
tank.
more like an AI challenge, so to speak.
Yeah. The fight is just not
Okay.
that hard.
Yeah.
And
And
then
we're
Vision
facing
World.
two bosses, so is it like two separate encounters or is it two stages?
It's two entire fights, two
Okay.
unique fights. It's one stage apiece.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, because we're fighting both its gear and we're fighting Graf's gear. That's very interesting, especially if you bring the corresponding gear in your team to the fight. I think this is so cool. I mean, I still love Xenogears. I think this is a fun banner. I'm just incredibly sad that they're screwing over their players, but we've already been through this. So about the Vision World, though, so it's one of those big reward Vision Worlds, right? Like the first 1,000 will get 10,000 lapis. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, based on JP, assuming they don't like massively buff it, it's very, very easy to damage cap. So there's going to be significantly more than 1,000 rank ones.
Really?
If it's the same as JP, if they don't change the stats, I did some calculations. A single Tyvis does like 13 billion damage to the boss, and you only need 10 to damage cap the final boss. Yeah,
Okay.
This was basically like a free giveaway in JP. That being said, global may change. It may buff it. We don't really know until Thursday.
Because Gumi hates their players and might fuck us up the asshole like they've done with many other things. But let's see. Gumi, listen, buff id, don't buff the Vision World, and I might no, I'm still gonna be angry. Who am I kidding? Because like you're not giving us unit upgrades and okay.
The one thing I'm pretty irritated about though is if you look at the schedule, they're making us wait an entire week for the final stages. They're making it like instead of 3 days, which is already irritating. Now it's a whole week you gotta wait. So we're literally gonna have nothing to do for a week.
Yeah, well, we just had a week like that, so hey, we're getting used to it. Like this game is a game without content. Okay. But to wrap it up, I guess we should also mention that we're going to be getting some weekly summons and daily summons. So there's a Xenogears daily summon where there's a super low rate for the on-banner NVs, like 0.5% for id and Graph, but a higher rate for the rainbows. So like this is where maybe you're going to be getting your phase. That's nice. And there is this guaranteed ticket as well that you can use that we're going to be getting from somewhere. So that's nice. And then we're getting a weekly summon again. So those are nice. How many are we getting? We're actually getting 11 weeks of weekly summons. That's not bad.
Oh yeah, for a long time. Really nice. Yep. Hopefully I get a graph from one of them.
Yeah. So you're not pulling.
I might use some tickets mostly because I kind of want Ellie for her STMR. I own no Xenogears units other than the stuff we've gotten free. So I've got Choo Choo, Billy, and Emeralda from the earlier collaborations, but I have none of the rainbows.
Yeah, I would love another Ellie actually just for the STMR because that would be really good. But I also want a couple of Fays, obviously, to get my Fay as high up as possible, just for the fun of it. So yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, I have promised myself to not spend money on this game until Gumi starts showing some love towards the players, because that's the best way to vote with your wallet for these type of games. So let's see where this leads us.
Hopefully they stop all these skips.
Yes, please. And just like because it's not even that it would dilute the revenue, because none of these units were meta or super strong. They were just fun because they are upgraded and you could do like fun old trials. Like you said, like fucking bringing Ellie to Asura. Like I had a boner when you were saying that, okay? But I can't do that. Like I can't do that now because they're not doing it. So that sucks.
Yeah, like I don't understand the purpose of skipping these. Like these are not going to eat into your revenue because we got Bart. All of a sudden, nobody
pulls Graph because we got a support unit. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like, it's so dumb. Like just give us these budget favoritism nostalgia units and let us have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Well, let's see what happens. Maybe they're going to do the same thing they did for Lena, where they did a tiny buff for Lena as the banner came around. Like, that was super cool that they did. We do have like a guardian angel at Gumi, I feel, or at least like Sinzar, you have a guardian angel at Gumi, the kind of a fairy godmother that listens to you. So talk to that person, Sinzar. Talk to that person.
Well, if all of a sudden it is buffed, Bart gets his upgrades, and everyone else does too, you know they're listening. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I mean, I don't want to put my hopes up too high, but if it is buffed, like just if it is slightly buffed, like the 300x or 320, 330, 350, that would be great. But let's see. Let's see. Okay, let's see if they listen. Prove it, Gumi. Prove that you care.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks everyone for chilling this week. I'm still excited about that Xenogears is finally coming to my favorite mobile game. So let's do it.
See you next time.
See ya.